Welcome to Superchargers. I'm Daniel Thomas. Let's go. G'day guys, my guest on this episode is author Aaron Ryan. He has written the sci-fi post-apocalyptic saga Dissonance, the sci-fi thriller Forecast, business books The Superhero Anomaly, and how to successfully publish and promote your independent book. We had an awesome chat. Let's dive in. I see that you have quite a multifaceted background, which I have too. You've done a whole heap of different things creatively.
I have.
So that really resonates personally because I saw in the list of things you'd done that you'd been a paper boy. You're also a musician. These were two things that have been in my life as well. What are your memories of the paper round?
Boy, paper boy. So I think everyone in the United States, at least, starts out with a paper route. It's one of the main things that you do. That's just a real easy job. That is not an easy job. I mean, let's face it, especially if you're delivering in the morning, it's very demanding and taxing in the cold weather, especially. I returned to being a paper boy. Well, go back. I think I did it when I was 13, 14, 15, somewhere around there. And then returned to it in my early 20s. And it was a great workout. I just weighed myself this morning and was like, I need a paper route again, man, because it gives you a good workout. But good customer service, I think I learned just, timeliness, punctuality, dependability, reliability. It's a great, source of tips from customers and gratuity. So
I think that's what I think that's what I'm getting at is when we do that so young, it sort of kicks us into this mode of like, it sort of gets us going in all those things you've said. And my memory is the same. It was just, getting up at 5 at 12 years old and like flying around the neighborhood in the mist and just feeling pretty horrendous one day when I squashed a cat basically with a newspaper. It survived, but like we have these very heavy Saturday newspapers in Australia and the cat ran into its flight path and just the newspaper hit it and stuff. But Christmas time, all the tips came in and it sort of, I think it instilled in me, I don't know if it's the same with you, a little bit of entrepreneurial type spirit at a very young age.
And it's very necessary. One of the things I love to tell people is that I'm not an author. I'm a businessman who just happens to write books. I'm also a voiceover artist, but I'm really not. I'm a businessman who just happens to do voiceovers. And so if you have the acumen, if you develop the acumen and the discipline and you're setting and reaching goals and tracking goals, well, that's your vehicle to put your craft on. You can have a craft. Everyone should have a craft. But without a vehicle to take it somewhere, you're going to make maybe a few coffee bucks. If you have the vehicle, you're going to generate business revenue. And so from an early age as a paperboy, I developed business acumen and the ability to just, or the focus rather, just to make it something that was more than just hucking papers. But man, I totally remember, I do remember rolling up those papers, rubber banding them, hitting a house, 30 feet up after a whole bunch of steps. I did probably, I want to say I had around or over 200 customers on my route, and I did the whole thing in like 42 minutes. It was a sprawling area, and like 42 or 39 minutes or something actually is what it was. It was crazy.
Same deal, actually. I had the whole thing memorized, so I could just fly around and I knew which house I had to hit and which different newspaper they were getting and stuff like that. So yeah, it did instill a lot of valuable skill. But then, I started falling asleep in class. And then it was time to kind of
move on. Occupational hazard for sure.
And then, and the musician side of things, do you still play, or were you in bands, or what did that look like?
No and yes. So I've tried instruments. The only thing that I've really tried at length, to any specific degree, is piano or keyboards. I don't do it anymore, actually. And one of the things I really thought that was my calling was to return to music last spring. So I've done, released 7 commercial albums. They all did, fairly well on a local regional level. I really thought it was my calling to return last spring, but just through a variety of circumstances last fall, it was like, this isn't it. I've got six, or rather five band members that I was paying. I was just lead vocalist. Don't mean to minimize, but I was the lead vocalist, just the lead vocalist. Um, but I had to pay them, every gig I wanted to pay them. And they're like, no, don't pay me, man. It's good. I want the experience. No, the worker's worthy of his wages. So we didn't get paid, but I paid them, each of them, a fee in order for them to, because they've worked hard to perfect their craft as well. But it just became too expensive, the revenue not coming in from, no one buys CDs anymore, t-shirts, whatever else paraphernalia. It didn't line up. And so I was spending way more than I was making. I loved every minute of it. I produced my last album, Human, last fall. If it's the Siren song, so be it.
Yeah, it's very noble of you to have that sort of ethos of paying the guys, and if it's not stacking up, well, that's the thing. These business things can kind of be applied to so many creative pursuits. And you're right, like you said from the get-go, having a vehicle to sustain that as a creative is just the ultimate, really. And in this day and age, it seems that there's more opportunity to, as much as there is out there, there is this opportunity to create these vehicles for ourselves that can keep us sustaining and making art.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite mantras and movie lines is from a movie I like to pretend doesn't exist, and that's Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. So sorry for all the fanboys out there. Love Star Wars. I just can't stand that movie. But one of the greatest lines I've ever heard came out of that movie, and it was something that Qui-Gon Jinn said to a young Anakin Skywalker, and he said, quote, "Your focus determines your reality." And I loved that quote so much, I actually had it turned into a little plaque, so I can see it all the time. Your focus determines your reality. So my focus was to become an excellent author. That's becoming my reality. My focus was to become an excellent voiceover artist. There's my studio behind me. That was my reality. A focus to become a successful multimedia production business in my own right, with doing a lot of creative pursuits. That became my reality, and that funds our lifestyle. Uh, but it does take the acumen and the focus and treating it like a business. So important. It's a creative pursuit, sure, but a creative pursuit can go a lot farther if you treat it like a business.
The simplicity of that statement is just real powerful, just how simple it is. And it's just speaks tenfold. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, so Dissonance,
Yeah.
I'm just into the audio book, and I must say I'm really enjoying it. There we go. I've just downloaded the audio book, and I'm in the early stages, but I'm loving it. I
Awesome.
could, yeah. So yeah, I'm really curious to. I can see there's 35 hours of it, which is awesome. All the various parts. From what I can take so far, I'm really curious to the relationships and the bonds between the characters. I love that there's this almost family connection in this dystopian world. I can see that the the father figure, or the who has adopted the main character, I can see that relationship perhaps being challenged a little bit, because it seems like he's maybe trying to balance the hierarchy and the commanding position and the personal relationship. So I can see I like those bonds that I can see early on, and I'm loving the world so far with these gorgons and um, the way you're setting up and building that world. So really looking forward to it. What was the inspiration for you behind the whole series? I've just lost your sound.
There we go. Can you hear me
Oh, we're
again?
back. No, yeah,
Sorry
yeah. I
about
lost
that.
I lost your answer there. So we'll go from
It's morning where I'm at, so when I wake up in the morning, I've got a little bit of gunk, and so I've been muting to clear that out in between the responses, but I
I
didn't
getcha.
unmute. Sorry. Yeah, I, as a voiceover artist, AI is destroying the voiceover industry. It
Mm.
really is. It's eroding it, and people would rather pay $49 for a bit of software that you can't direct. You can't. It's never going to be a human voice or have that intonation or directability. And so, as maybe a little bit as of an exit strategy, I decided last year I've got to pivot. I have to adapt and overcome. And so I returned to authoring. Now, as a voiceover artist, I'd penned and published 6 different books that are primarily business related
Mm.
and purely on the subject of voiceovers. However, much of that content is satirical. Much of that content is Dave Barry inspired. And so it's fictional, it's imaginary. I had a blog following of 3,000 plus people and wrote 300 blogs. A lot of that permeated, that fiction permeated those blogs. So I said, what, and this is on the coattails of music, realizing music wasn't my calling. So what can I return to is what I asked myself. What is my calling? And I said, well, I'm naturally a storyteller. In voiceovers, I tell other people's stories. As an author, I get to tell my own, and boy, that excited me. So last fall, I I set out to write a single novel. My favorite movie of all time is Aliens with Sigourney Weaver,
Mm.
1986. I wanted to write something having to do with an alien invasion. Not those same types of aliens, obviously, but it ballooned. It just ballooned and became a trilogy before I even knew it. And then I tried to untether from that trilogy, and then realized, no, there's a prequel that I can write. So it's actually a tetralogy, but I've just submitted the 5th book to my editor, making it a pentalogy. So super stoked. But man, I just wanted to write something that was captivating, inspiring, terrifying. And it really turned out to be something way better than I ever could have hoped or dreamed. So I'm very grateful.
I know what you're saying with the. I'm a voiceover artist as well, and I had an agent. And when all this stuff kicked off, I literally it was a very small little agent, but I said to them, how are you dealing with this? How are you going to protect my voice and so on? They just were non-responsive, and I just like
Mhm.
you realized that AI has just kind of obliterated a big part of this industry. And exactly like you say, you can't, the direction, things like that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of that it's a little bit disheartening, but your ability to pivot and the ability to pivot and adapt to all this stuff because things are changing so quickly is quite cool. So the fact that it's led you to this body of work, part of a
Right.
bigger story, that's cool.
Well,
Um,
last year we contended with a number of issues here in the States last year. AI has been percolating and simmering for a while. So and we knew that threat was coming, but it was always treated as a marginal threat, I think, by uh the Illuminati of the voiceover world. Um, so it wasn't really regarded as a penultimate threat. However, last year we had the SAG-AFTRA strike. We've always had underbidding colleagues. We've always had lowballing clients. We've always had economical issues. But then AI really has just come to the fore last year with Chat GPT and OpenAI and all of those threats. And so that's precisely why I did my album called Human
mm.
last year, in the face of that. But yeah, I'm grateful. It's frustrating because I've seen my voiceover income decline and the number of jobs awarded decline. I can see your Shure SM7, by the way. Nice job. Uh, I understand. I'm not going to pivot away from voiceovers entirely. It's fairly lucrative still, but my passion far and away has just been authoring, and I'm so grateful to be able to do that.
So it's your voice on the audio
It
for
is.
yeah. No, no,
Yeah,
I mean
or
I'm
rather, yes, it is. It's me talking like this. This is what we call around home as my Cadillac voice. Cameron is very war weary, very world weary, and so he's beaten down. So he's just talking like this, and it's kind of gritty and gravelly. And I was so excited to be able to do that. I hate doing audiobooks, especially fiction, but there was no way in Hades I was going to outsource my precious works to anybody else, because if they did a bad job, I'd be so remiss. And when characters die, spoiler, I'm bawling, and you'll hear it. That's me, but these are my people that I've created,
mm.
and it's just hits you right in the heart.
No,
So
that
yeah.
personal connections very, very cool to have. Did you find that by doing the voiceover, did you find it made you kind of self-edit as well, or did you do that once the beast was like completed?
I'm not George Lucasizing anything. There's nothing that I'm like, well, let's tweak it a little bit and throw in something new and cool. It's not that. Um, there are several edits that I'm still finding, and I've got some real good friends that read and continue to read, or listen and continue to listen, and pick up errors here and there. And so when Vance is his name, I love Vance, really good guy. Named one of my characters after him. Um, he's been so helpful in saying, you did a double take and you didn't catch that in the edit, so he's got to tell me where and what chapter and go back in and edit those. But I think books that you publish are still living documents,
Mm.
and you'll find little things that you just didn't correct years down the line, and you've got to go back and fix it. I'm
Yeah,
a
and
perfectionist that way.
I think it's about accepting that, when you have thousands of words, I'm reading Stephen King's book at the moment on writing, and he talks about the trees, but then stepping back and seeing the forest. But the
Yeah.
fact that you approach it as a thing that's never quite complete, that's part of like embracing the imperfection of stuff. When you're just dealing with that amount of sheer words, like, yeah, there's always going to be things.
Yeah. Well, volume one reality was 86,000 words. I do not remember the word count for volume three Renegade. It eclipses the other books in terms of page count. Their average 330, 340 pages. Volume three Renegade is 431 pages. So, it's over 100,000 words. And with that word count, yeah, you're going to have mistakes in there. So,
What does your writing process look like? Just to, not to bring it back to me too much, but just in my own writing process the other week, I thought it was a good example of the challenge of writing, because I was heading to the cafe down the road on a Sunday, which is an important space for me to write in sometimes. And like this storm kicked off, this absolute blizzard. It was a while ago, actually. It was when it was colder months, but this blizzard kicked off. I got soaked. This wind kicked in. I was on my bike, and I was like, I can't sit in the cafe like dripping wet. And there's this part of there was a part of me telling me to turn around and go home. And I was like, if you turn around and go home, you're gonna have this nagging, dissatisfied feeling all day because you haven't at least hit a couple of sentences.
yeah.
So I plowed on through the weather, and I got to the cafe soaking wet, but I just, and I managed to knock out a couple of pages, right?
Yay. Good
And I,
job.
I think the metaphor in that, if you're willing, that just set an example to myself that no matter what the conditions, if you can just knock out a sentence which can then become a paragraph, that's a good
Yeah.
that's a good day, regardless of all the stuff that's flying around you.
Exactly. Well, I mentioned earlier that I hate doing audiobooks, but I do have one particular client whose books I'll do. They're not fiction. It's basically self-help and encouragement. And his name is Thibaut Meurice. He's a French author. And I love him. I think he's brilliant. But narrating his books, they're wonderful. One of the things though that he said in his books was success is not an event. It is a journey. And so that little sentence that you've typed out, just willing yourself to do it, it's the same thing with exercise. Once you prime that pump, tap into it a little bit, then you'll see where you go. And hey, oh, here we go. And before you know it, you're at 1,000 words. For me, these stories burst out of me much like an alien queen. I could not contain them. Chest burster from Aliens. I just I pumped them out, and every spare minute that I had. Now, as a voiceover artist, things have been slower, so that has afforded me a lot more time during the day to flesh out these stories. Um, I'm also a very fast typist, and I would just churn everything out as quickly as I could. But it really is taking every spare moment that you can, and then the story kind of tells itself, and then your fingers are just trying to keep up with where the characters are leading you.
So you how do you, so you it seems like you don't keep you keep the self critic at bay during, you're just getting those words out.
Yeah, I forget who said it actually, and I think the phrase has been attributed to a number of different people now. At first, the person said, at first, I'm just shoveling sand into the sandbox, and I'll build sandcastles later. It's just getting that sand in the sandbox, and then you'll figure it out later on. Now, sure, as you're going along, I write very organically. I'm much more of a pantser than a planner. I do have bullet points in my running manuscript for where I want them to go. Without a heading or a compass, they're kind of bereft and wandering aimlessly. But how long it takes to get there, I want art. Art imitates life. I want it to be accidental, spontaneous, just like life would happen to us. You wanted to go to the store, but your baby had a blowout in its diaper. You wanted to go to that family reunion, but your I don't know, your boss is calling and needs you to run into work. That happens to us. And so if it's organic, it's much more believable. And so I would just try to keep up. But I love the writing process for that very reason, is it just is so spontaneous and you can go in a million different directions.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Um, and so this volume one is has been adapted, and you're currently pitching that as a film, which is pretty exciting. How's that
Yeah.
process been?
So I don't know if Superchargers is just video or audio only if you're doing a podcast.
It's both.
Uh, okay, good. So hopefully for the viewers, you can see that's me just being so excited right now. I can't wait. I mean, every author's dream is to see their book adapted to screen. So mine has been adapted to screen, and it's being pitched to various streaming networks so far, and we've had some really good successes. No one has snatched it up yet, but where's wood? Knock on wood. Um, what's
Here,
so exciting?
sorry, here in Germany, the knock on wood people knock their heads.
Ah, I'm gonna have to use that in the book. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's oh man, I can't even begin to say how thrilled I am. One of the most exciting things about it is that my favorite movie, again, James Cameron directed, Aliens, 1986, and he used to be married to Gail Ann Hurd. She's a powerful producer in Hollywood. Gail Ann Hurd put on a contest for Hollywood Fellows, they're called. I'm not sure exactly what that means, other than a membership, and they're trying to get somewhere with Hollywood, something like that. Anyway, 5 screenwriters won the contest that she put on, and my screenwriter is one of them. So I'm literally like 3 degrees away from Kevin, or from Kevin, from Kevin Bacon, 3 degrees away from James Cameron, which is super exciting to me. I just
Yeah, for sure. Man,
awesome.
Aliens as a kid, I remember it was the first movie when the chest burst happened that I think I didn't only run out the room, I ran out the entire house. And I just had this I had this moment of realization of how powerful film can be. Um,
Yeah.
that I just remember that so clearly. And it was in it, it was in the suspense of it all. It wasn't just that moment, it was the whole build up. It was a very impactful film for me too as a kid.
Tremendously exciting. It had everything. The
Mm.
story had absolutely everything. And I'm one of those guys that doesn't like to watch the theatrical releases of any films. Once there's an extended release or a director's cut or whatever you want to call it, and you've got 47 minutes of additional footage, there's no going back. There is no going back. And so in the director's cut of Aliens, you just see so much more backstory of Ripley. You see so much more increased tension building moments in in the movie. I really, it's fair to say, and my favorite author is J.R.R. Tolkien. Big surprise, ring around my neck. Although this one has my, it's not the one ring. I'm still here, putting my finger through the ring. I'm still here. I I love Lord of the Rings with all my heart, and the Fire of a Thousand Suns. I've read it at least 150 times, the trilogy all the way through. Um, you will find that various passages throughout all 4 and 5 books, the fifth one's about to be published, of my series, I'm paying homage to Tolkien. I'm paying homage to James Cameron. Homage, however you want to say it. I There's tips of the hat, definitely. There's nods to those inspiration. sources because they framed me.
You mentioned earlier you've named a character after a friend, or is have you drawn from other personal experiences?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, my cousin pointed out again, favorite movie, Aliens. The main character's name is Cameron Shipley. And so Cameron Jet Shipley. So Shipley, oh, that sounds like Ripley, Aaron. And his name is Cameron, James Cameron. I'm like, no, no, pure coincidence. Uh, but people, that's a question. I admin a 32,000 member author group on Facebook, and that question comes up frequently. How do you come up with your characters' names? Well, in my new novel, Forecast, the primary character is my best friend, Roland. He's got a different last name, of course, but I'll take in my life, there's a person over here and a person over there. I'll take his first name and her last name, and now I have a character. I'll take her first name and his last name, and now I have another character.
Mm.
And it's also kind of a hey, you're in my book, kind of.
That's
That's
actually
cool. They like that.
That's very cool because coming up with names can often be a bit tricky. But if you're just doing like
Yeah,
a mixtape or a mesh of different people, great way to do it.
and then you remember them a little better that way.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean so so you can see it. I mean, I can see it visually just from what from what I've read so far. Did I mean the whole show don't tell thing is very clear there. So do you get a visual sense when you're writing?
yeah. No, I'm so much more visually inspired. So I actually started writing the book on the coattails of my wife and I having watched I Am Legend last fall. I'd seen it before. It's a great movie. I mean, it's a haunting movie. But one of the things that I was struck by as I'm sitting here wondering how and where and why to pivot, and authoring has come to the forefront of my brain. One of the things that I was really inspired by was just how overgrown the earth had become. It's unmanaged. It's not maintenanced. So many people are all killed off by the rabies that came from the virus. And so I was very inspired by that. Animals roaming the streets free, and a sole survivor and his dog. So when I set out to write Dissonance, I was inspired visually by that already. I did want a world not too far into the future to strain credulity, or to you know to promote any kind of uh like suspension of disbelief, or a stretch like glossy spaceships in space. I didn't want to do any of that. I wanted gritty reality. So the invasion happens only 2 years from now, so we got some time. Everybody relax, we're okay. The alien invasion happens in 2026. Well, 2042, if an alien invasion happened in 2026 and killed off 85% of all mankind, there's no forward momentum. There's no innovation. There's no change in society because we're living underground. Earth in 2042 looks very much like Earth in 2026. It's just overgrown. So I wanted something that was really grounded in reality that way, and that wasn't removed. Like, oh, hey, hats off to James S.A. Corey and Marie Lu and the Legend trilogy and all that. I just wanted something a little closer to home.
Yeah, closer. That that's cool to keep not to have it too, because you're exploring a world that's very, you know, that that could be a big stretch. So to keep it in the pocket, I like that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a tradition on the show to have guests offer some kind of challenge to listeners. Is there anything, given your career as an author or given your journey, um, that you'd like to suggest for the audience? It could be something that you've tried on a daily basis, some small thing that's had a big impact on you. Is there anything that springs to mind?
Well, the mantra that I shared earlier, I really firmly believe you need to have a mantra. If you don't adopt a mantra, then you're kind of it's not that you don't have any forward momentum or directional axis or anything like that. But I live and die by mantras, just like I live and die by Microsoft Outlook. I know exactly what's happening. I'm communicating with everybody, got my reminders popping up. A mantra it defines who you are and what you do. they also can be tremendously affirming in those moments where you're struggling for success, struggling for, excuse me, validation and worth. And another mantra that I really love that I've adopted says, someone's endorsement of you or lack thereof, in this case, as an author, someone's purchasing your books, someone giving you a 5-star or a 1-star review, any of that stuff, or lack thereof, has very little to do with your trajectory. I love that phrase because we can hang our hat so much on, did I get a new review? Oh, F5, F5, let's refresh this website. And what did these people say? And did I get any more likes or followers? We all do it. I mean, I'm not immune to that, but uh, that does not define my trajectory. My trajectory is going forward. Such a hard word to say, even as a voiceover artist. Trajectory.
Trajectory. The one I
It's
struggle with is specificity.
Oh, I hate it. Specific is another word. Statistic, rural, community. Hate it. But yeah, there's
Yeah, it doesn't affect your trajectory now. I can't.
it's see, I told you it's a hard word. It has very little to do with it. Your trajectory is forward. So just it's kind of like Rocky said in to his son in the movie Rocky. It's not about how hard you can hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. I love that dialogue, that scene.
It's very much about staying on the path, just
Mhm.
staying on the straight and narrow, regardless of all these things. I've referred to it a bit, but I just enjoy. I'm not even an American football fan, but I enjoyed a series about the quarterbacks because one of them kept saying, regardless of win or lose, he just sticks to the game plan. So he doesn't allow those those wins or losses. He doesn't allow them to throw that trajectory and that game plan. I think it's a similar thing. Just stay on the path.
Yeah, well, I'm going to show this again. He's got focus, and your focus determines your reality. It's such a true phrase. It's been such a true phrase for me. This was my focus. This, what I'm sitting in right now, used to be an 880 square foot concrete and framing shop. That's all it was.
Mm.
It was old wood with cobwebs. It was an old aluminum sliding glass door, cobwebs over that. Excuse me. And we converted it into it built everything out, luxury vinyl plank flooring. I've got a studio that's not connected to the walls around it, so that's got air pockets and eliminating sound in between. We got an exercise room out there that I use all the time, all the time. I have to walk right past it to get to my office. You would think I'd be thinner, but that was my focus: is getting this place souped up and turned into a dream location to work from. And I'm just grateful. It became my reality.
Yeah, it's very very cool. I can see the way you put a lot of love into it. Um, how has fatherhood impacted you?
Yeah, so one of the things that I absolutely love telling people is, again, I'm a businessman who happens to do authoring, but I'm really a daddy who happens to be a businessman who happens to do authoring. I've got an 8 and a 5-year-old son, and my 5-year-old, it's going to be weird. 8-year-old is going into third grade, so we're used to this by now. But my 5-year-old is entering kindergarten on the 9th. And uh, it's just how is that possible? You can't be 5. You can't be in kindergarten. It's just we just had you.
I know.
So it's crazy.
It's
It's
really crazy.
it's crazy. We'll be empty nesters, when they're
Mm.
8 and 5 because they'll be gone all day. But I love my kiddos, and I've got a video that I had put out there that I had made as a voiceover intro video, and I love it. In part of that video, I'm sitting there working, and the kids burst into the office, and I turn around and give them the stink eye, like, what are you doing? Uh, but it's just they light up my life. They give me purpose. I channeled a lot. Now you're reading Dissonance Volume 1 Reality. That's the one that you're
Hmm.
in right now, right?
Yeah.
So there's the prequel, Dissonance Volume 0 Revelation. And I channeled so much of how I feel as a daddy, how I operate as a daddy into Andrew, Cameron's father. And I channeled so much of my 8-year-old into Cameron
Mm.
as a little boy. So you'll see and you'll read that, but I love being a daddy. I love it.
But likewise, and yeah, I couldn't believe it. My son's 11, and that 10-year block, that first 10-year block, like as adults, we kind of, I mean, we don't change that much. We still can change, but a 10-year block to us, 30 to 40, but our kids are changing so rapidly that I just didn't realize how fast that first 10 years was going to go. He's my primary reason for being in Germany, and I haven't missed those key moments, because I just think it goes that rapid that like
Yeah.
you got to be on those key moments because that 10-year block, just like you say, it's just gone out the
Yeah.
window. Be empty nesters before we know it. It's really crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. We went for an 8 mile ride last night, an 8 or 9 mile, whatever it was. Um, and I've got an e-bike. And so there's a thing called an orbiter on the back of the e-bike that both boys can sit in. And so it's just great getting out there in the sunshine and riding together and talking and playing. I don't do enough of it. You never do enough of it, but I'm so fulfilled just to hear that little voice in the morning say, "Hi, Dada," or "Good morning, Dada." And my older one will say "Daddy" or "Dad," but my 5-year-old is still in the Dada mode, and it just God, hits you right in the heart. And "Hi, buddy, come here," big hug. They're just they light up your world.
The comedy as well, like the my son and I see the comedy in a lot of, everyday situations. And
Oh yeah.
we went past a building the other day and I was like, look at that building. And he's like, yeah, that's an architectural fail. And I was like, where did you get that? Where did you get that? You just come up with this term.
My 5-year-old is a spitfire. I mean, he's the kid who when you said there was a package that came someday for mama and whatever. I was talking to Asher, my 5-year-old, and I think he was 4 at the time. And I said, gave it to mama, and I said, mama gets all the love. Where's my love? Get over here, give me some love. You get over here, give me some love right now. And it kind of made it into this big, I'm crying, whatever, fake crying. And Asher literally stops and puts his, elbow on the table and his face in his hands and shakes his face and he goes, "You're always drama." And I went, "Where did you get that?" Just
Well,
rolling.
that's the other thing is the kids just shoot from the hip, the filters, the
Oh,
filters not there, which I love the fact that they
there
just
is no filter.
the
It's not that it's not there, it just doesn't exist.
So are you quite stringent with your as a creative in terms of your blocks of time so that you can be more present for your kids? Like, do you have a quite a regimented, you said you're big on these systems, this the reminders and things but
Yeah.
how do you go with blocking your time?
Well, I'm 9 to 5 Pacific time every day, except when I'm talking to Australian podcasters. I get up, a lot earlier for that.
What time is it
um,
now? What time
it
is
is
it?
it's 7:38 a.m.
Oh,
here.
wow. I appreciate that, Aaron. I very
Oh, no
much
worries.
appreciate that.
I woke up just before 5. I usually get up at 5 every morning, and I come out here. There's a block of voiceover auditions waiting for me. But that's the beginning. They're already sleeping anyway. At the end of the day, I'm very, very cut and dry. 5 p.m. is cut off, and then I'll go back in the house because then it's family and kids time. Uh, when they're asleep, then that's my wife's and my time, and to talk, to catch up, to watch something, whatever, in the evening. That's our time. So yes, absolutely. You have to cut that off and maintain that separation. One of the nice things that converting this detached garage to a shop has done for me, I mean, it's 40 feet away from the house. Boy, when I first got into voiceovers or first really started pursuing it as a career, oh, I got to run up and do an audition. It's in the house. The studio was in the house. So I'm running up and down and running up and down and running up and down to do auditions, even in my off hours. Honey, can I go up and can I just do this audition real quick? Yes, go ahead. Well, the shop, it takes a lot more to get out here. It's 40 feet away. It's armed. I have to disarm. I have to turn, the monitor back on and run out here. So it's helped maintain even more separation to allow me to focus more on family. That's a good thing.
Yeah, the separation's good. I've had the home studios, and you start recording, and suddenly a leaf blower goes off outside the window. It's just like leaf blower. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world, like Melbourne,
Now,
Australia, London, Thursday 9 a.m. leaf blower. It's like
there's leaf blowers. That's an absolute undisputable truth of voiceovers. Or and this is why we moved. We were not very close, but we were somewhat close to a regional airport. So, I'm sitting in a it wasn't even a walk-in closet, Daniel. It was a slide across door closet, and I'm fun sized. I'm a big guy. And so I'm in this little closet pulling the door closed past me and recording in there. But if a plane, God forbid, is coming in for a landing or a takeoff from Payne Field, oh, hang on, everybody, just a minute. And you got
yeah,
to wait for this thing to pass by overhead. And he's in my skies. Well, we're in a much more rural, there's that word, rural
rural.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that word. So it's way easier. Don't have to worry about it. And leaf blowers, if they're out in the streets, I don't hear them, but I do hear the occasional plane. We're not close, but there is an army base, a joint army Air Force base or army,
Barracks,
yeah,
barracks,
whatever it
or
is.
what is
Army, and it's not Navy. It's Army at least, and they're over there. So you hear them testing their detonations and their explosions and ah choppers. Crazy.
um Yeah, no, and then the momentum stops, and you have to get going again if something. So the setup you have there looks like the dream setup really for all that
I
you're
love
doing.
it.
Where can people find you and all the books that? So the audio I've downloaded is the whole volume. Is that correct? Like it's not the prequel, but it's the first 3 or 4 volumes.
No, so if you downloaded the all-in-one, the omnibus edition, that's 35 hours, that'll be the
Yes,
first 4 books. And
yes.
I'm going to update that to include the fifth one that I've just submitted to the editor. So that one will be in that audiobook as well. That they're all available individually though as well. So if you go to Amazon, you'll find paperback, hardcover, Kindle, and audiobook for each one of those books. But yeah, thank you for asking because I love sharing this. They can go to authoraaronryan.com, and there's a blog there, just slash blog. They can sign up if they want. They can find out 25 interesting and nearly useless facts. They can see where I'm going to show up next, what I'm working on, or they can go to two ways. Dissonancetheseries.com is my books for Dissonance for the series, but it's too hard to spell and too difficult to remember. So I got getthesebooks.com. And if you go to getthesebooks.com, that will forward to Dissonance the series. So authoraaronryan.com, getthesebooks.com.
That's cool. I like that. Get these books. That's very easy to navigate.
Yeah, I
Um,
couldn't believe it was available. I was like, wow.
one thing we haven't touched on to bring it home is self-publishing versus traditional publishing. And I
Mm,
just think it's amazing that not only have you got this whole volume out there, but now that you're looking at, film adaptation, this is given the self-publishing world, it's really inspiring. I've always had like a punk rock ethos, and I think that comes from bands. So the kind of self-publishing thing appeals. But I've
yeah.
spoken to a lot of authors, some traditionally, some hybrid, some self-published. So I'm sort of learning about, the differences between them. But you would you
Yeah.
consider yourself an advocate for self-publishing?
Absolutely. I published, I self-published a book on self-publishing. It's in my library on Amazon. No, I totally support it. I do not support in any respect hybrid or vanity publishers. No legitimate true publisher will charge you anything
Mm.
to publish your book. So if you hear vanity or hybrid because no one liked the term vanity. Are you a vanity publisher? No, no, we're a hybrid. It's the same thing.
Mhm.
And they're going to charge you a whole lot of money to publish your book. So I don't support them. Traditional publishers, they're harder to get. It's you have to try to really lasso those guys. But here's why I'm a staunch advocate for self-publishing. Number one, it's quicker time to market. You can get your books to market way quicker. I published all 4 of these books for Dissonance this year. The next one will be published next month. So there's five. I published other books this year that I just, had before and had never published to try to build up the library. So quicker time to market. Two, you retain all creative control. Three, you can command higher royalties. That's big. That's a big thing. If I want to change my book to $5.99 for an ebook price, or I want to up the paperback and hardcover editions, I can do that. And then another thing too is that you can choose your own team. So I want this editor, or I want that graphic designer, or I want, that marketer guy, this guy to create a promo video. I just love, I can do all the creative control, and I did all the covers for my books and the layout and everything. But the other thing that's really nice is that we talked about this earlier. You're going to have mistakes. I mean, 20 years down the line, I'll be like, I didn't put a period there. Or that's a comma or whatever. And I can go in and make a simple change. It doesn't cost anything on KDP. Ingram Spark is going to charge you, which is just irritating. But it doesn't cost you anything. You just make the change, upload the change to Kindle Direct Publishing. Voila. It's just so easy to do. The specter of it is what scares people off, and the ensuing marketing that you're going to have to do. And people are like, I got to market. If you believe in something and it's something you created, you're going to market. You're going to be
Mm.
passionate about it and want to tell people about it. That's all marketing is. Be an enthusiast, not a marketer.
That's sound advice and resonates a lot because I went through the self-publishing process with a little fiction novel I did, and had a crowdfunding, self-published it, had the
Mm,
frustration with Ingram Spark, with the, trying to change it and being charged and so on.
yeah.
But yeah, I struggled with the marketing side of it, but it was just a really important step. It was my first crack at finishing a book from start to finish. But yeah, what you said at the end there, about the passion of it, yeah, I think that's my issue with marketing. If you're trying to push something you're not passionate about, people have a bullshit radar.
Yep.
Um, it speaks tenfold. Like if your heart's in it, you're
Yeah.
gonna, yeah.
Well,
So,
marketing, people love to buy, they hate to be sold. That's been
mm,
true forever. You feel powerful when you buy, you feel powerless when you're sold. And so people don't like to be marketed to, but enthusiasm is contagious.
mm,
So if you are enthusiastic about your book, and I'm so excited this Friday, I have 6 exciting days ahead of me, but this Friday through Sunday, I'm doing the Harbor Days Olympia Festival, and I'll have a trade show. It's a vendor market craft fair. I'll have a booth there where I'll be, promoting the books and doing sales and signing, and I'm going to talk to hordes of people and going to be marketing the snot out of this series again, and just being enthusiastic though about it. Like I just, can I tell you the story? Yeah, come on in. Yeah, you want to hear a really cool story? And I get to share it with people, and I love that. Right after that, Monday through Wednesday, I'm going to go to Nashville and Clarksville, where the story is set.
mm.
So I'm gonna walk where my characters walked. I was using Google Maps aerial view as I have them threading through the streets. So I'm gonna be on those very streets, and I'm going to be handing out flyers to people where in locations where the books, where they made their passage through that building or that office, or it's abandoned in 2042. But yeah, can't wait. I just, enthusiasm is contagious.
And those, in this internet world we live in, those personal connections and face-to-face opportunities, I think they count for so much in this day and age.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting times, exciting times indeed. And as I say, I'm really curious to keep diving into it. And no, it's been really inspiring to talk to you, and I very much appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And likewise, it's nice to meet an author slash voiceover artist, because I feel like an anomaly.
This creative entrepreneurship that we find ourselves mastering as artists, I think is just really important, as an artist, to create, just as you have this sustainability, this studio that you have, this world that, to me, that's living the dream.
Yeah, well, I'm living the dream. They say find what you love to do, and you'll never work a day in your life. I love coming out here, Dan. Or Daniel, sorry. I love coming out here every morning. I love being able to just post up and go, crack the knuckles, start getting to work, and just know that this is mine. No one can take this away from me. I don't report to anybody. This is my dream. I'm not working for someone else's dream. And it's just, again, your focus determines your reality. This has become my reality, and I'm a pretty thankful guy because of that.
There you go, guys. Honest ratings for the show on Apple are appreciated. If you have a guest suggestion, please feel free to reach out on my website at danielthomas.co. I'm also on social media at Mr. Dan Thomas. Catch you on the next episode.